So, in the last class I have been talking about file organizations, right. So, a primary file organization, the kind of policy or the logical method we use in order to organize records in a file. So, we started looking at various file organizations. Using hashing, one can adopt hashing as a means of organizing the file. So, we looked at static hashing in the last class. So, the static hashing method, the disadvantages is that when the actual records in the file is much less than its capacity, okay, then there will be wastage of disk space. But and if the actual records is actually much more than its capacity, then there is a tendency for overflow chains to form, and so the performance will degrade. So, for those, so in this class we will concentrate on files which are likely to grow and shrink as time progresses. So, this kind of dynamic files we are not able to fix an exact size for these files. These files are such that their size will vary over a period of time, and so we want to still organize them using hashing. So, how do we proceed? So, that is what we will discuss in this class. So, hashing for dynamic file organization. So, these dynamic files are where the record insertions and deletions take place very frequently, and so the file keeps growing and shrinking. Now, what we will do is to discuss two specific kind of techniques called extendable hashing and linear hashing. These are very interesting schemes using which we can you can basically employ hashing for dynamic file organization. Both of them basically make use of the fact that the bucket numbers are integers. Bucket numbers, after you apply the hash function to the hashing field, you get a bucket number, and that bucket number is is an integer. So, we can convert that integer into its binary representation. So, we get a bunch of sequence of bits, and we cleverly make use of these bits and organize a dynamic hashing scheme. So, so we will see the details. So, both extendable hashing and linear hashing make use of the binary representations of the bucket numbers after you apply the hash function. Okay. So, let us get into the details. So, before I proceed with extendable hashing, let me set up what I call as the k bit sequence corresponding to a record R. Okay. So, you take a record R, apply the hash function to the hashing field of that particular record, you get a bucket number. Basically, convert that bucket number, let us say R is the bucket number, convert R into its binary representation, you get a bit sequence. So, some number of bits will be there. Okay. So, some n number of bits will be there, let us say, but then take the k trailing bits, the last bits, take the k trailing bits and then call that as the k bit sequence for that particular record. In fact, for the bucket actually, for the k bit sequence for that particular bucket. And now, we will see how exactly we will make use of these k bit sequences, and this k is actually will be varying over the usage of this particular scheme. We will notice that. For instance, if you say you get a bucket number 46, you convert that into binary, you get the, so a 3 bit sequence corresponding to this bucket would be 110. A 4 bit sequence of course will be 1110, but we will go with so depending on the requirement we will be using a d bit sequence corresponding to this bucket. But the important thing to remember here is that we are actually taking, in this class we are taking trailing bits, trailing k bits. Okay. Here is how extendable hashing works. There is a very interesting picture here, focus on this. The scheme makes use of a directory. it makes use of a directory. So, this is the directory, okay, and this directory has certain depth called the global depth. The global depth is basically what is the number of trailing bits that we are currently making use of. So, let us say is d equals 3, then all the 3-bit sequences are present in the directory, all the 3-bit sequences are present in the directory, and then what the directory structure is like this. So, it has a 3-bit sequence because the global depth is 3 right now, it has a 3-bit sequence and it has a disk pointer to a block, to a bucket actually, to a bucket, a disk pointer to a bucket, okay. Now, the idea is that to use this file system, you get the 3-bit sequence corresponding to a record that you are searching for, right. So, and then you look up here. So, this is all 3-bit sequences are here. So, you will get the 3-bit sequence, and then you go to that particular bucket. In that bucket your record will be present, okay. So, that is how it is organized. Now, these buckets have another an important parameter associated with them called the local depth, okay. The local depth is actually the number of bits in the common suffix of the bit sequences corresponding to all the records that come to this particular bucket, okay. So, for example, for the local depth of this is 2 actually. What it means here is that, so 000 records that have the k bit sequence 000 and records that have k bit sequence 100, both of them map to this particular bucket, and we can see that the common suffix for both of them is this 00, okay. So, that the length of the common sequence is the local depth for this particular thing. Now, basically what we are doing here is that if the number of records that map to the bucket corresponding to 000 and 100 is not sufficient to have independent 2 different buckets, we are actually putting them together in one bucket, Now, as the time progresses, more records will come into the picture, and it is possible that a particular bucket with some local depth which is less than the global depth might actually have overflow. If it overflows, what we do is to basically split this particular bucket, and redistribute the records in that particular bucket into 2 different buckets, and then make use of the next trailing bit, okay. So, for example, here let us say there is a insertion and a new record comes into this particular bucket. What we can now do is to split this bucket and make use of so the local depth was 2. So, we were only using 2 bits so far, and then kind of mapping all those records into this. Now, we can actually make use of the next trailing bit and then adjust these records that come into this into 2 buckets, and then actually make this the second pointer to the second bucket, the split image of the bucket, okay. So, I will show you examples in which where we actually do the insertion from an empty file etc., and then that points become clear, okay. So, what happens in this case in this situation is that after some time it is possible that all of these buckets that had local depth 1 less than the global depth might actually get split, okay. So, when such a thing happens and then you again get one more request for insertion, then we do not have an option to split these current buckets. So, at the time what we will do is, this is a clever technique, at the time what we will do is simply double the directory structure itself. We will increase the global depth by 1, and double the directory structure and then adjust the whole structure again, so that we can make use of this scheme. Okay. So that is how so with the same number of buckets, say for example, after some time instead of 6 we might actually have 8 buckets. Okay. When all of them, this one is split, this one is also split, then we will get 8 buckets, right. So and then each of these things will point to exactly one bucket, each of these entries will point to one bucket exactly. So at the time, suppose an insertion comes into the picture and we are supposed to split this, there is no one more bit to make use of in that situation. What we will do is to in order to create that additional bit, what we will do is to double the directory structure, and remap all these pointers to the first part of the directory. Okay. So we will see exactly how we do that in a example situation now. I will illustrate insertions. Let me take a toys kind of situation here, where we had using 2-bit sequence for the records, and so we have the global depth of just 2 here. Okay. Global depth is 2, and let us say we have 2 of these things mapping to this bucket, and this is pointing to this bucket, and here is another thing. So this one, both of these 2 things have local depth equal to the global depth, whereas this one has local depth equal to 1 less than the global depth, which is equal, right. So now let us say the 2-bit sequence for the record to be inserted is actually 0 0. Okay. So you look up here in this directory and then you figure out that it has to go into here, and so there will be 2 cases, either this is full or there is some space for record here. If there is a space for the record, then there is no issue, you can actually insert that record into that bucket itself. Suppose this is full, then what we will do is we will split that bucket B0 is going to be split. So all the records whose 2-bit sequence is 1 0, okay, are sent to a new bucket B3, which we will create B3, okay, and others are retained in B0, and the directory is appropriately modified. Okay. So that is how it will come. Now, okay, so actually in the previous case 0 0 and 1 0 are both pointing to this place. Okay. So now if you consider the set of all records here, they either have the 2-bit sequence 0 0 or this 2-bit sequence 1 0. Okay. So when you split it, you retain all those records that have 0 0 as the sequence in B0 and send all those records that have the 2-bit sequence 1 0 to the new bucket. That is what we have done here, the new bucket. Okay. So basically now we have made use of the full bit sequence. Earlier we essentially were making use of just one bit here equal to the local depth. Now we are making use of the 2-bit sequence. Okay. So now the directory structure is like this, all buckets have local depth 2. Okay. So the directory is modified. Now let us see that I will now replicate this picture into the next slide and then illustrate as to how one more bit sequence comes into the picture, one more record comes into the picture and then what will exactly happen. So this is the picture that we had in the last slide. So all the 2-bit sequence, all these directory entries were pointing to a full bucket, I mean a normal kind of each of them were pointing to one bucket. And now let us assume that 2-bit sequence for the record to be inserted is 1 0, okay, and let us also assume that this particular bucket is full, So there is no space for each of these buckets is a sequence of consecutive slots where records can be kept. So, it is either a block or a small set of consecutive blocks. Okay. So, there is no space here, and so now if you try to split this, we can't make use of the current directory at all, because we cannot accommodate one more bit, because it is a 2 bit, it is based on 2 bits. So, what we will now do is to double the directory structure and bring in 3 bit sequences into the picture, bring in 3 bit sequences into the picture. Now, you can see that so there will be 2 3 bit sequences that will have 0 0 as the trailing sequence, right, 1 0 0 and 0 0 0. Okay. So, if you focus on that 0 0 0 and 1 0 0 0, they will both now point to the same bucket B0. That is how we will map this to the new directory. So, in the new directory, this B0 will continue to be there as it is, but only thing is now it has become a bucket with one less depth. Here it was equal to the global depth, now it will be depth 2, the global depth is become 3. Okay, so that means 2 of these entries will actually point to that. What are those 2 entries? What were the ones that were pointing earlier? Okay, so all those records with trailing bit 0 0 were coming here. Now they may actually have either 0 0 0 or 1 0 0. In either case, they will come here. That is how we will adjust the directory links. In a similar way here, for B1, all those records with 0 1 were coming here. Now we will see that 0 0 1 1 0 1 will come here. So 0 0 1 1 0 1, both of them will come here. Okay. So that is how we will, when we double the directory structure, we will appropriately adjust this pointers, and then see the number of buckets actually has just grown by 1 only. So, because B3 is full, we split that and now create B4, B3 and B4 we created. So, B0, B1, B2 were existing, B3 had to be split. So, now the records in B3 are split between B3 and B4, B3 and B4. Now, B3 records that were coming here had 1 0 as the 2 bit sequence. Now, they will have 0 1 0 as the 3 bit sequence, and the other one, the 1 1 0 will now go to the new bucket, So, when you split the records here, all of them had 1 0 as the 2 bit sequence. So, if you now consider the 3 bit sequence corresponding to them, they will either have 1 1 0 or 0 1 0. Okay. So, all the 1 1 0 things you will put it into a new bucket, on the 0 1 0 things you put it into the old bucket. Okay. So, that is how we will adjust the directory. So, you can see that wherever it is actually necessary to create more space, we have done that. So, at this place B3, new records are coming into picture. So, we have created an additional bucket, and then in order to take care of coming to this place, we have doubled the directory structure, and then we retained all the other pointers as they are in some sense as they are in the new directory structure. So, that is how the file can expand, and in fact file can also shrink when records are getting deleted. When records are getting deleted, it is possible that in some of these buckets slots will become empty, the slots will keep becoming empty. So, when slots become empty, okay, so yeah, so this point basically explains this B3 being split. So, in general we can actually before we consider deletion, in general if the local depth of the bucket to be split is equal to the global depth, local depth of the bucket that has to be split is equal to the global depth, then the directory structure has to be doubled. Okay. The directory has to be doubled. Now, deletion, let's look at deletion. So, deletion in extendable hashing, for example, let us look at this, the current scenario that was there. So, this one is the let us say some records have got lost, have been deleted. Okay. Now, you can observe that there are what are called matching pair of data buckets here. Okay. The k bit sequences have a common k minus 1 bit suffix, then those are the matching buckets, right. For example, B3, B4 are the matching buckets in this case. Okay. So, now what happens is that in case due to deletions, if a pair of matching data buckets both become less than half full, then you can actually combine the records and put them into one bucket, because both buckets have become less than half full. So, if you combine, you will still be able to, accommodate the records into one bucket, right. They were in two buckets and both of them are less than half full. So, we can now put them in one bucket. So, what you do is you take the matching buckets, merge them and reduce its local depth, make use of one bit less now and then adjust the pointers appropriately. So, this pointer and this pointer will now point to the same bucket actually. So, that is how when you merge you can adjust the directory. So, you can take care of the growth of the file as well as the shrinkage in the file using this nice directory structure. And in general, of course, there is a assumption here that the hashing function hashes the records uniformly across the bucket numbers. And you can also see that what is the maximum that directory size you can have, that would be equal to the number of bits that are available, for the bucket numbers. Okay. So, if the bucket numbers are from 0 to 64, then you know that there are so many bits, 5 bits, right. So, that is the maximum you could go. Now, one other interesting thing can happen. So, as you are deleting, the local depths will keep coming down actually. Okay. So, if the local depth of all the buckets is actually 1 less than the global depth, then we actually can reduce the directory to half of its structure and then adjust the pointers again. Okay, just like we have doubled the directory when there is requirement, we can also reduce the cut the directory by half and then adjust the pointers again using this nice kind of scheme. Okay. So, that kind of explains the very nice technique called the extendable hashing. I have a bit more detailed example where I have taken a small bucket capacity and then gave the insertions and then have shown you how exactly the whole thing goes. I will not go through this example because it is available in the slides, you please go through them. Even the bit sequences are kept here, so that you can follow it easily. So, let me go to the other interesting technique, which is called the linear hashing. This is a very interesting, equally interesting technique called linear hashing. This does not even require a separate directory structure, but it can manage the dynamic file very nicely. What it does is, instead of just using one hash function, it actually makes use of a family of hash functions. Okay. So, H0, H1, H2 etc. It makes use of, so it assumes the existence of a family of hash functions which are like this, like the range of Hi is double the range of Hi minus 1. Okay. The range is the number of values, the range of the values that it gives, the bucket numbers it gives. The range of Hi is double the range of Hi minus 1. Okay. So, I will show you what is such a family here. For example, if Hi of x is x mod 2 power I m, then this property will be holding. So, H naught of x is mod m, x mod m, where m is the initial number of buckets that we have. Okay. Then H1 of x will be x mod 2m. Okay. So, the range of H0 is 0 to m minus 1, the range of H1 is 0 to 2m minus 1, it will double. Okay. So, we will assume the existence of such a family of hash functions, but at any point of time we will actually use a pair of hash functions, Hi plus 1, like that, we will use a pair of hash functions. So, let us assume that the initial hash functions are H naught of x is x mod m, H1 of x is x mod 2m for some m, which is actually the number of initial buckets. Okay. Here is how the structure looks like. Here is the m 0, 1, 2, 3, m minus 1, these are the main data buckets, and so a few overflow buckets are assumed to be existing. Okay. Now, the insertion, to insert a record say with hash field value x, we will compute H naught of x. So, we will get a bucket number, go there and insert it, that is all, simple. In case there is no space there, go and insert the record into the overflow chain, okay, that is a simple. Now, whenever the first overflow in any of these buckets, in the data bucket 0 through m minus 1 occurs, okay, say overflow occurred in some bucket S, insert the record into the overflow chain of this bucket S. Okay. What we do is create a new bucket M, and split the bucket 0 records using the hash function H1. Okay. Split the bucket 0 by using H1. So, some of the records will stay in bucket 0 and some will go to M actually. So, if you take a bucket M, so all these buckets were having, when you take a mod M, they were coming to 0. Now, if you take mod 2M, they will actually go to either 0 or M. Okay, if the we can show that little later, I will show that. So, when you take H1, the H1 is x mod 2m, So, you take the records that are here, okay, now rehash them with H1. To rehash them, some of them will have 0 value as a hash value, some of them will have actually m. So, now we create a new bucket M. This is going to be called as a split image of bucket 0. Okay. Now, notice one thing here, that we are not actually touching the bucket in which the overflow has actually occurred. Somewhere in these buckets a overflow has occurred. So, that overflow kind of starts triggering these expansion of the structure. So, we do not actually touch the bucket where the overflow has occurred, we will use a overflow chain there, but we start splitting the buckets from 0 onwards. The moment the first overflow occurs, we start splitting 0 and then next one more overflow occurs, we split 1, and then one more overflow 2. So, we actually split the buckets in a linear order, that is why it is called linear hashing. It is called linear hashing because we split the buckets in linear order. So, whenever we split, we kind of create the mirror image of this particular bucket like this. So, m is the mirror image for 0, m plus 1 is the mirror image for 1, m plus 2 will be the mirror image for 2, etc. And then whenever we create a mirror split image, we basically take the records in that bucket, okay, use the next hash function h1, redistribute the records from this into this bucket and its split image. Okay. So, this is a very nice idea. We do not even have a directory structure here. We do not even have a directory structure. All that you have to remember, that all that you have to actually now keep track of is how many of the original buckets have already been split. That number you should know. That number you should know. Okay. So, let me show you the actual. Okay. Now, on subsequent overflows, bucket 1, 2, 3 are going to be split in that order, and we keep creating these split images. So, m will keep track of one number, which is the next bucket to be split, next bucket to be split. So, after m number of overflows, 0, 1 through m, right. So, there are m data buckets to start with. So, if m overflows actually occur, then all the m original buckets would have been split into m additional buckets. So, now we have 0 through 2m minus 1, so many 2m number of buckets actually. We now have 2m number of buckets. Then what we will do actually here at this point is to switch over from h0 h1 to h1 h2. We will switch over to the next pair of hash functions. Okay. So, h1 we have been using h0 to start off, and then for redistributing the records from the bucket to its split image, we were using h1. Okay. Now, if all the original data buckets have been split, then obviously we have to now use h1 to locate the record, and for splitting we will use h2. Okay. And we will actually, of course, this number n which keeps track of the next bucket to be split, we have to set it to 0. Okay. So, this is how the linear this one will work. So, we make use of h0 h1 to start off, then h1 h2 and so on. At any point of time we will be using hi plus 1 a pair of hash functions in order to handle this thing. So, here is a proof that if you have hi of x as x mod 2 power I m, then you know if you apply hi plus 1 to the same number, to apply hi plus 1 x, you will actually get either k or m prime plus k. Okay, let's put this 2 power I m as m prime. Okay. Now, let us apply the, so if hi of x equals k, let us say if hi of x equals k, then you basically can write x as some m prime times r plus k, right, using the usual mod, where k is strictly less than m prime. Now, consider applying this next hash function hi plus 1 to the same x. So, hi plus 1 x is this m prime r plus k mod 2 m prime. Okay. The nature of hi plus 1 is that it is x mod double the original number, double the current original numbers. So, if m prime is here, then this will become 2 m prime. Okay. So, now consider that that will actually be either k or m prime plus k. How? When you can show that here. So, you can, if you focus on this R, either there are two cases, R is even or R is odd. So, if it is R is even, then it will be m prime 2s plus k mod 2 m prime, in which case you can see that this is divisible by 2 m prime, and so it will become k. If R is odd, then m prime times 2s plus 1 plus k mod 2 m prime, right, in which case you can see that this one will give you m prime, and so this will be m prime plus k. Okay. So, you can you are guaranteed that if you use the hi plus 1 next hash function on the bucket number, you either get the k that you used to get when you apply the old function, or m prime plus k. Okay. So, this is a crucial requirement for us, because this m prime plus k, you know, is our split image for bucket k. Okay. Okay, so here is the actual insertion algorithm. Say the hash functions we are currently in use are hi and hi plus 1. So, to insert the record with hash field value x, we first compute hi of x. We compute hi of x. If hi of x is less than n, what is n? N is the next bucket to be split. We always maintain this number. If hi of x is less than n, then the original data bucket is already split. So, what we need to now do is to place the record in the bucket that is given by hi plus 1x. Apply hi plus 1x to the same bucket number, to the field value, and then you will get a bucket number. So, this will be either the original k or its split image m prime plus, and then place the record there. In case it is not the case that hi of x is actually greater than n, then you know that the original data bucket is actually not yet split, and so you can actually place it in that bucket itself as it is directly. While placing the record, especially in the original data buckets, there might be a overflow problem, in which case you go to the overflow chain and then insert the record there. Okay. So, this is how linear hashing works. Again, I have a detailed example where, you know, linear hashing has been applied with some specific bucket numbers, bucket capacity 2 records per bucket, like that, and then I have shown how exactly. So, I have taken h naught of x is x mod 2, x mod 4, and then illustrated as to how these. Okay, the initial hash functions are x mod 1 and x mod 2, and then after the insertions, insert 12 and 11. So, they both so since it is mod 1, so they will simply go there, and then insert 14. So, this place has no more space, so it has to be split, and so now you have to use H1F. N has to be split, which is like this, and then now you use H mod x and H mod 4. So, because H mod 4 this one gives 1, when you consider mod 4, it will go to the new bucket. Okay. So, you can follow this example and then understand this linear hashing. So, basically both these techniques are cleverly making use of the binary representation of the buckets, binary representation of the bucket numbers, okay, and then cleverly ensuring that the structure expands or shrinks. So, in the case of linear hashing, for example, when shrink occurs, you can actually keep discarding the split images. Okay. So, if so then when all the you can merge the split image with the original data bucket if both of them become less than half full, like that. So, when the number of buckets decreases, then you can actually switch back to the old pair of hash functions. Okay. So, that is how the linear hashing works. So, I think we will stop here for today. I will take I will discuss index structures for other file structures in the next class. But please go through these examples and also work out your own examples in order to get a good grip of this, how both extendable hashing and linear hashing work.